What is up, guys? Welcome to Just Offside, the weekly MLS show where we take your comments and talk about them. My name's Allan.
I'm Louie.
Let's get right into it, guys. First comment here, Ryan Walker says, covers the Canadian men's national team too, please, smiley face. Yeah, I'm Canadian. I'm resident Canadian person on the show, so I would love it. We should definitely dive a little deeper into the Canadian action.
Yeah, definitely, especially because there's a lot of new guys coming up in the Canadian men's national team that are hopefully going to be making a splash very soon. You have the Canadian Premier League launching next year, so there's a lot of soccer action happening north of the border that we will definitely be starting to cover going forward. So yes, Ryan Walker, we will be covering more Canadian football stuff, for sure. Uzi says, haven't watched since episode 1, and you guys are much better and entertaining now. First of all, thank you very much that you watched the first episode and you watched last week's episode, because it means the world to us that you think we're getting better, because we are always trying to get better. So thank you very much for your kind words, and we hope to keep putting out as much entertaining content for you guys as possible.
Next comment, Brad Jr. 10. He said, well, Team USA is starting their rebuild. I just hope they can pick it up in 4 years. For sure. I personally really like what Team USA is doing right now and taking a bunch of young guys, giving them experience, because right now in these friendlies, it's important to give these younger kids experience playing against the top guns. So I really like what they're doing, and although the results may not be what we'd want to see, I think in the long run it's going to be really, really beneficial for Team USA.
Yeah, there's a lot of young guys on this new generation of the U.S. men's national team, but a lot of guys with a lot of potential. A lot of young dudes in the MLS, a lot of young dudes from basically across the world that really need to try and get integrated into this squad. And hopefully in 4 years' time, hopefully they'll be able to make this World Cup. It's a matter of, can they bed it into the team? Can they get things rolling? So hopefully they will, and in 4 years' time, they'll put it on the biggest stage. So DCU TV commented and said, if DC manages to get into the playoffs, do you all think they do better in the first round against Columbus or New York City FC? So personally, I think that DC should want to avoid New York City FC, because despite the fact that both Columbus and New York have been playing really, really well, for some reason, David Villa just scares me more than anybody on Columbus. Not that Columbus is a bad team, it's just that when you line up and you look across and you see David Villa, it's not the best look, you know what I mean? Like, that would scare me more.
Yeah, for sure, and I think we don't want to keep harping on the stuff that's happening in Columbus, but their empty stadiums in a playoff situation might actually negatively impact them, and I think DC would be a little more scared of going to New York and playing them in front of a kind of a filled-out stadium. So, although both teams are really good, I think you're right, and their kind of starting 11 for New York City FC really kind of puts the fear into someone's eyes.
Yeah. So make sure you guys are leaving comments so that we can feature you in next week's episode.
So now, let's get into covering this weekend's games, starting off with the exhilarating, super thrilling game, DC United versus New York Red Bulls, a game that ended 3-3, but it had everything you could want in kind of a draw. Wayne Rooney scoring. They're all of the big names that you'd want to see on the score sheet were there. What did you think of this game?
Oh, I mean, this whole weekend had a whole slew of phenomenal games. This weekend was literally jam-packed with excitement, but this game was just one of the absolute best of the weekend. Had Wayne Rooney scoring, Paul Arriola scoring, and Lucho Acosta with a phenomenal goal. And all of these things, these are probably the three main guys for DC, but on top of it, New York has Bradley Wright Phillips, which is it's like a cheat code
Mr.
in a video
Consistent,
game.
Man. It seems like he's always when they need him, he's showing up.
Which is crazy, because the dude scores a hat trick and you think, man, Bradley Wright Phillips hat trick, the Red Bull must have won. No, because DC has so much quality on their side.
Yeah, man, and not to keep harping on this whole Rooney playing for DC United thing, but they just look so different as a team. It's crazy to see the resurgence they've had under him. And if they do make the playoffs, do you seriously think that they have a chance?
So I do think that they have a chance, and this is kind of what I've been thinking about for a while now, is that you've got Montreal, New England, and DC fighting for that last spot, and it's like, which one of the three would you rather kind of see in the playoffs? As a fan of the league, and as someone who has followed Wayne Rooney for his entire career at Manchester United, it's like, I want to see him in the playoffs. I want to see him on the biggest stage. I want to see him produce. So for me, I would much rather see DC in the playoffs, because you never know what can happen with this team. This was a team that was dead last in the East right before they signed Wayne Rooney, and now they are fighting for a playoff spot. If they can sneak in, it'll be phenomenal for the league.
Yeah, I think everything surrounding DC United right now, they just have this buzz, this really, really tangible feeling that's surrounding them. And it would be, I agree. I think it would be awesome to see them kind of make it into the playoffs, make a push, because I think that their fans are there behind them, and they're a bunch of fans that when it comes playoff time, they understand what it takes, and they're really going to be there pushing for their team.
So with the tie and Atlanta's win over the weekend, the New York Red Bull drop out of first in the East, which also drops them out of first in the running for the Supporters' Shield. So question to the audience, how important is the Supporters' Shield for the New York Red Bull? Is it something that they should be striving towards 100%, or should they be focusing more on gearing up for the playoffs?
All right, Louie, let's cover now LAFC versus New England Revolution, a game that ended in a tie. A game that New England sort of needs to win, right? They're on that bubble, they're on the cusp, they're trying to get into the playoff spot. The tie, how important do you think it was for the rest of their season?
They definitely needed to win this game. And by tying LA, they basically put their own destiny in DC's hands. Because, yes, New England has a game in hand over Montreal, and they do play Montreal to end the season. So, in theory, New England could pass Montreal. But the problem is, if DC win all of their games from now until the end of the season, DC will pass New England, which is not a good position for New England to be in.
I think New England's schedule for the remainder of the season is pretty tough as well. I don't think that they're playing kind of these gimme games. They're playing some of the big boys in the MLS, and you never want to go into that situation, of having your team be in someone else, your fate be in someone else's hands, but also any game that you play is going to be very, very, very important to your season.
For sure. And so it was unfortunate that they did draw this game, but they did look good. They looked much better defensively than they did offensively. Brad Knighton coming into this team has solidified that goalkeeping position, and this guy has made some phenomenal saves over the last 2 weeks. And it was so unfortunate that, yes, the goal was credited to Urena, but in reality, it was Andrew Farrell who kind of screwed Brad Knighton over here, because Knighton was leaning down to pick up that ball, and Farrell stuck his toe in and misdirected it into the back of the net. Which is unfortunate, because if you watch the saves that Knighton has made during the whole game, this guy was on fire.
Yeah, I mean, he really was keeping New England in the game. I think that we did see a different side to New England as well. After they got scored on, I like to think they were kind of like a sleeping giant. They woke up, they didn't put their heads down, they didn't let that goal bring them down. They kept going, and after they got scored on, honestly, I thought it was all New England for the rest of the game.
Right, and it's kind of along those lines that you guys have been talking about over the last couple episodes. New England has attacking potential. They have the skills. They just, for some reason, can't seem to get it on the mental level.
We'll see if they can address that sort of mental side to the game for the remainder of the season. And so, Louie, in talking about New England, we kind of have to give LAFC a little stick, because Vela, Rossi, their big name players, could have put the game away very early on for LAFC. Did not do that. They were uncharacteristically sloppy in not being able to finish. Let New England Revolution have a chance in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was their lack of clinicalness, if you would, to put the game away that allowed New England back into the game. Rossi, like you said, had open chances. Vela had some good chances. They just couldn't put the game away. I remember one that Rossi, the move that actually ended up leading up to LAFC's goal, Rossi just whiffed a shot in the 6-yard box, which, your center forward should be putting that, burying into the back of the net.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like these guys were off their step. They weren't playing to their normal game. If they had been, I think it would have been a totally different story for New England, because, again, they were getting in front of the net, they were putting shots on net, and it was just kind of unfortunate and a lack of sharpness.
Moving on to the next game, you had FC Dallas and Columbus Crew playing out a very boring 0-0 draw in a very empty stadium. And moving on to the next game.
Yeah, I think that's all we really have. I have no notes for this one. So let's move on. Real Salt Lake versus Minnesota. Another uneventful game. Real Salt Lake, after going on this kind of crazy goal spree of scoring 12-plus goals in 2 games, just one.
It just seems like the goals dried up a little bit. And it wasn't for lack of trying, though. These guys on RSL were putting on shots. The amount of shots they hit the post or hit the crossbar was absurd in this game. We kind of knew this was going to happen. And I'm assuming someone didn't bring a duck to this game.
No.
And so there you go, guys. This is all we're saying. Bring ducks to RSL games and maybe you'll score more goals. And to the granddaddy of this past weekend's games, Toronto, LA Galaxy. We could sit here and talk about the actual happenings of this game, but quite frankly, I'm just going to say this. Oh my God, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Like, that was the most Ibrahimovic goal Ibrahimovic could have Ibrahimovic'd.
It's almost scripted, because his 500th goal, and he does the Bruce Lee kick. crazy, man. It's this guy, like, he writes his own fate, his own destiny. It's in his hands. I have to believe that.
It's as if someone's writing a book on his story and he's just acting it out, because it's absurd. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. The ball comes in, he like just. I have no words. I have no words.
I don't think we're the only ones either. It was funny because I was watching Paul Pogba's Instagram story, and he was congratulating Ibrahimovic, but he's like, dude, you're watching a little too much Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, like, you're watching too much Kung Fu movies, because the moves, I mean, and it's not even the first time he's pulled off a move like this, so it's kind of karate kick type goal. It's absurd.
You know, just look at Ibrahimovic's highlight tape, and you'll see that this wasn't a one-off thing. But, my God, man, like, who even cares about the score at the end of the game if you do that?
Yeah, for sure. Guys, let us know. In the 500 goals Ibrahimovic has scored, where does this rank in his all-time scoring list? I think it's pretty high up there, honestly. I would probably put it top 20 goals. I don't know where in the list there, but okay, let's cover the game a little bit.
Okay.
Because although he did score a phenomenal goal, they did end up losing the game, right?
Which is funny because no one's talking about that. It's as if LA won this game 7-0, with that being the cherry on top. But in reality, Toronto actually played well.
Yeah, I mean, they went up early, 3-0. Ibrahimovic scores that goal, and it gave the LA Galaxy some momentum. They actually caught up, scored 2 more goals, had the game tied at 3-3, but then ended up losing 5-2. Toronto picked their heads up, showed that they still have some respect in them, got two late goals, and ended up winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, Josie Altidore, clinical in his goal. Giovinco, phenomenal with his goal, and this Toronto team has been so hot and cold this season that despite spending so much money to fortify their team after winning the MLS Cup last year, their season has been so stop and start. It's like they have a phenomenal game like this one, for example, where they're super clinical, but then you have random games where they're tying or dropping points here and there to like lesser opposition. Like this, in my opinion, Toronto should have come out guns blazing this season and just taken the whole league by storm. This is a team that has everything to be one of the best teams in the MLS, but they're struggling at the bottom of the table right now just because, for whatever reason.
Yeah, this is one of those classic examples of kind of squad not reflecting where they are in their position on the table, right? Because if you look at Toronto FC, that team is ridiculous, man. They should not be where they are. They should be competing for top spots in the MLS.
Let us know, guys, why is Toronto slacking so much this season? Moving on to the next game, Chicago Fire versus Orlando City. Battle for last place in the East. Not really what you want to be fighting for, but if it works, it works. Chicago came out the winner 4-0. Yeah, there's not much to it. Orlando kind of shit the bed. A lot of the goals were just mistakes by Orlando's defense or the goalkeeper. I didn't see Chicago really turn it on at all. It was just, I feel like they just capitalized on some pretty wide open chances.
It really wasn't that exciting for the score line, right? Normally you would think the game would be a little more exciting. Really wasn't. Orlando was just really bad. So
very bad.
So that's really it for that game.
Yeah.
Another game that had a pretty high scoreline, but wasn't too many talking points, was Houston Dynamo versus Portland Timbers. Houston Dynamo actually ended up winning the game 4-1. A little bit of an unexpected result for the Timbers. I really thought that they played all right. I don't think that 4-1 was necessarily reflective of how they played, but Dynamo were clinical when they had the chances and they got the goals.
Complete side note, I thought people didn't go to Revs games until I watched that game, and I looked in the stands, and how is Houston still a franchise in the MLS? It doesn't make sense to me how you could have like 3 people in the stands, and just because you strategically place microphones in front of some of your fans that it sounds loud on TV, but there was no one there.
Yeah, it's so funny because that's right. Like if you're watching this game on TV, it sounds like drums, do, and all of this noise, but it doesn't reflect what you actually see. And I think that's actually something we brought up in the first episode of the show, and it's just how bad the attendance was for Houston. You would think that this area kind of cultivates a lot of interest in the sport, but it does not show in the stadium.
But then you look at this game, and it's just astounding to me how they're still an MLS franchise when you have a team like Columbus about to get ripped from their home to be moved to Texas, yet neither Texas team right now has very big fan base.
Yeah,
so
in the Houston Dynamo and FC Dallas, both of these teams do not bring a crowd out.
I don't get it. MLS, I don't get what your plan is here. And also, what the hell is a dynamo? What is a dynamo? If you could please comment, what is a dynamo? I'd love to actually know what that is. Turns out Houston actually came out to play a little bit. Manota scored 2 goals, one of which was very funny. If you go on the MLS's Instagram account, you will see that for the goal that Manota scored that the Timbers goalkeeper parried into his path, the MLS wrote, the caption was, perfect pass and perfect finish by Mauro Manotas. Problem was, it wasn't a pass. The dude shot it at the keeper, he parried it into open space, which is what you should not do as a keeper, and it just happened that Manotas was there to bury it into the back of the net.
Speared into the side netting. 18 in all competitions for Mauro Manotas, who has blossomed in front of us here in Houston.
MLS, man, what are you guys doing? Whoever's in charge of your Instagram account, what are you doing?
Yeah, intern. Come on, man. You got to do a better job than that. That's an atrocious caption for a play that had none of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just get your shit together, whoever you are in charge of the MLS Instagram account, because that's a pretty horrendous mistake. Like, if you want people to take you seriously as a league, you need to understand the fundamentals of the sport that you are the league of.
Know what a pass is, what a shot is, what a goalkeeper mess up is.
Moving on to another one of those phenomenal games that we talked about at the beginning of this episode. Sporting KC came out 5-1 victors over San Jose. Man, in a weekend that had some phenomenal games and star performances from people across the league, Gerso Fernandes, my cousin, on Sporting Kansas City, basically took the game and won it by himself. He had 2 assists and 2 goals. His chip goal was absurd. If you have not seen this, pull up your phone, go find this highlight because it is beautiful. He makes a beautiful timed run off the left wing and just chips it so beautifully. But basically, he was the commander-in-chief of this game. He had his hands all over it, and he just, if I could actually give a man of the weekend, of this whole weekend, it'd be to him and not Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is indeed, but God, I he's my family, so
Yeah,
you gotta keep it, gotta make sure I'm supporting him, you know?
So do we give Sporting KC the credit, or was it kind of, I kind of saw it as a little bit of a bully sesh. San Jose, I mean, we all know that they're not doing great this season. Was it Sporting KC playing really, really well, or San Jose playing really, really badly, or maybe both?
What do you guys think? I personally think that it looked to me like San Jose actually tried to play quite a bit, and it just happened that Sporting KC were just better, and it wasn't really sloppy play from Sporting KC that was giving them these goals and these beautiful plays. It was a matter of them just playing well. So I'm leaning more towards the side of Sporting Kansas City just outplaying San Jose.
For San Jose, though, I will give their fans credit. Even given the season that they've been having, their fans were there supporting them, making a lot of noise, and were kind of sticking there through the end of the game. Even when San Jose got that final goal, kind of a consolation goal, their fans were there backing them, kind of cheering them on, which I really respect, because I think in a time when your team is really down, that's when you need the fans the most.
Shout outs to them, man. Good on you guys.
Yeah. All right, Louie, let's cover the team that you are wearing over your heart. Atlanta United versus Colorado. Atlanta United wins this game 3-0, and what a hell of a game for Miguel Almiron.
Dude, I mean, this guy, it's one of those things. We talk about Josef Martinez on this show a lot. Without Miguel Almiron, I don't think Josef Martinez would have scored as many goals as he has over the last 2 years. And this was the perfect game to kind of showcase that, right? You had, Almiron was so critical to the success of this game. It was his deep pass to Julian Gressel to allow him to cross it for Villarreal's goal. And then Josef Martinez actually turned provider for Almiron to score his second. And so this was really a good game to remind everybody, in my opinion, that Almiron is the heartbeat of this fluid attacking line. And so I wanted to ask you guys, does Almiron get enough credit for Atlanta's success? I know that in Atlanta he does, but around the MLS, is he getting enough credit? Should he be getting more?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Miguel, he's, I think, only the 3rd player in MLS now to have double digits in goals and assists. So he's not just one, he has more than one dimension to him. He's doing a lot for the team. And again, Josef, he's going to get all the credit because of his goal scoring record. But Miguel, I mean, he's everywhere on the pitch for them. And it seems like when he's not scoring goals, he's giving crucial assists.
Right, and this came. The commentators were like, "Oh, it's going to turn into a rout now," and I almost thought it was going to end up being one of those situations where Atlanta just wins like 9-0.
Yeah.
Colorado didn't really look that great. Similar to how they've been all season, they haven't really looked good.
Poor Tim Howard's been getting scored on a lot recently.
Which is bad for the United States Secretary of Defense. So he really needs to step his game up here. It's a little sad that he comes back to MLS thinking, yeah, I'm going to join an amazing team, and then he joins Colorado, and sorry.
Yeah, not been good for you, Tim Howard. I'm super sorry. I do feel really bad for you.
Your beard looks good.
Also, Dragon Ball Z fans will love the Miguel Almiron and Josef Martinez celebration. Like, every time they do it, I'm like,
it is my favorite celebration.
Yeah.
It's so phenomenal. And it just shows the unity that these two guys have. Like, they must be such bros off the field that it makes me so happy when they play so well together. I love it, man.
You want to try to do it right now?
Let's do it.
Ready?
Yeah!
We missed. No, it's okay. So we're not on the same wavelength as them.
No, clearly not.
What would we look like as a fusion?
I don't know.
If anyone has good Photoshop skills, let's mix these two faces together, send it to us, shoot us a DM.
Moving on to another game that actually surprised me. Montreal Impact beat Philly 4-1. And despite Philly scoring first, they were on the receiving end of one hell of an ass whooping.
Yeah, Montreal was clinical, man, and they were playing. I mean, they had a counterattack goal. Where Silva and Piatti combined for one of the nicest counterattacking plays. So calm, so composed. Let Silva score. I think it was their second or third goal. But man, their play is so well, and they're kind of one of these more underrated teams in the MLS right now because over the last few weeks they've been putting up some good results.
And we've been I feel bad because every episode on the show we've been kind of saying like, is New England going to pass Montreal? Is DC going to pass Montreal? But Montreal has been cementing their playoff spot week in and week out. Every week they've just been like, nope, we're going to keep this sixth playoff spot. This is ours. But my question to you is, and to also the audience, is Montreal convincing anybody? Is this a team that with this performance, as an example, did they look extra good or did Philly look really bad? Because I feel like they're this team that parts of their games, I'm like, yes, this team looks very good. But then sometimes it just seems like they I don't know.
Yeah, I personally think that Montreal in the playoffs, I'm gonna say it, I think they're gonna be one and done if they do make it to the playoffs. But again, they could have a game where they turn it on like they have and surprise me and shut me up. But I think that personally, if they make it to the playoffs, the teams that are there above them will be playing at a level that Montreal won't really be able to match.
Philly's also in the playoff picture, but is Philly convincing anybody of their quality? Because they haven't really been convincing me over the last month or so with these games.
So yeah, Philadelphia, I see them in the same light as Montreal, as one of those teams that if they do make it to the playoffs and solidify their spot that they have now, one and done.
Especially because the quality of teams that Montreal and Philly are going to have to play if they make it to the playoffs is, man, there seems to be such a big gap between the top three in the East and the bottom three in the East playoff picture right now. It's just like, I really don't trust anybody who isn't the top three teams in the East because those three teams look phenomenal. Atlanta and both New York clubs look phenomenal in comparison to Columbus, Montreal, and Philly.
But Philly fans, let us know if you think we're being a little outrageous in our claims. Do you think that you guys have any chance if you do make it into the playoffs? Let us know, comments below.
And moving on to the final game that we're going to be covering this week, it was actually a very good rivalry game between Seattle and Vancouver. In the end, Seattle pulled out the 2-1 win, but my God, this game was contested.
Yeah, I mean, a rivalry game that you could feel the rivalry, right? And those are the games that are super exciting, the tension. The fans were there backing Vancouver. What was it? They broke the attendance record for their stadium.
Yeah, so Vancouver broke their own attendance record at BC Place with 27,000 fans at the stadium. Unfortunately, Vancouver couldn't pull out the win despite a lot of late chances that just didn't seem to go in for whatever reason. The ball was bouncing right in front of the line instead of going in. Shots were they were so close to picking up the win here. But Seattle, man, they just prove what we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. They are on absolute fire.
And a couple weeks ago, we asked if Raul Ruiz could fill Clint Dempsey's shoes, and by God, has he been doing that.
Yeah, man. I mean, his 2 goals this game.
Seattle, 9 games on the bounce now. Such a big turnaround for them.
9 wins in a row for this Seattle team, man.
What do you think? 10, 11, 12? How many games do you think Seattle can keep this win streak up for?
Can they go the rest of the regular season undefeated? That would be astounding if they could.
What do you think, Louie? How many you think they can, or where do you put their cap for the season?
I don't think they'll be able to win the rest of their games, but I also thought their streak was going to end after 5 wins. So they've been proving me wrong. And honestly, if they seem to be connecting on such a level right now, that I actually could see them in some way make the rest of the games unbeaten.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with their current run of form if they did that. Their team right now is looking scary.
They are, man. And whoever draws them in the playoffs, good luck to you.
Yes.
But also, with that win, Seattle wins the 2018 Cascadia Cup. And for those of you guys who don't know, I hope you do if you like the MLS, Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, they have their own little rivalry that is called the Cascadia Cup. It's run by the fans, it's run by the supporters, and there's no corporate sponsorship. It's an award that is awarded to the best of these 3 teams every year.
Rivalry?
Trivalry. Hashtag Trivalry.
And that wraps it up for us this week, guys. As always, leave your comments below for any questions, thoughts, concerns you may have. We are going to be throwing them up next week in our next episode. And if you like the episode, be sure to click that like button below and scroll just a little bit over to the right. Click that subscribe button. It lets us know that you like what we're putting out, and it really helps our channel grow.
That's it from us. Peace.